Hello, Internet! My name is Catherine Barsonistis, and you are watching the Gluttonous Geek Presents Munchies and Minis, a weekly cooking show where I make a recipe inspired by Dungeons & Dragons or any other tabletop role-playing game that happens to be currently in print, and then usually work on painting a mini. However, we haven't done that in a while, and also, as you can tell, this video is actually being pre-recorded. I am not currently streaming, and the reason for that is because we need a new router, and I went over this during the last episode when we made some spiced marmalade inspired by the Blue Rose tabletop role-playing game. This week, we are moving to a very new game called Tiny Taverns, where it is a tabletop role-playing game, but you play as the staff and owners of a medieval-style fantasy tavern. I know, my bread and butter, kind of figuratively and literally. So we decided, since this particular game, which I haven't started playing yet, I'm super looking forward to once I've learned the system. I will try to also feature it on the stream when I possibly can. Also has various recipes, various dishes listed in the back that you can incorporate into your game. And today's recipe we are making is for a spicy hippogriff wing, which I'm going to go ahead and read the description for you. The spicy hippogriff wing. Typical ingredients: hippogriff wings plucked and marinated, aged chili pepper sauce or paste, and melted butter. The description is: whole plucked hippogriff wings are marinated in buttermilk, tossed in seasonings, and then either roasted or fried until crispy. They are then dunked in a rich, spicy combination of melted butter and aged pepper sauce. Commonly served with creme fraiche, celery ribs, and a dipping sauce mixture of dill, chives, and mascarpone cheese. One hippogriff wing typically serves two and goes great with beer. So, this is essentially buffalo wings, or rather the medieval fantasy tavern version of buffalo wings. And I'm going to make this with a different type of poultry wing. We're going to make this with turkey wings because they're a little bit more the size that you're going to be expecting a hippogriff to be, or a very, very small hippogriff to be. Then to kind of make sure we're also going along with the whole medieval fantasy setting, we are going to be seasoning it with a medieval spice blend called Poudre Fort, which is a French words for strong powder, a very popular spice blend consisting of not equal parts, but a mixture of cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, and clove and black pepper. The whole idea of, strong spice, that sort of thing. And especially when you have a lot of your spices coming in from the Far East, you would normally need to go absolutely crazy with those spices that have probably have weakened a little bit over the journey. But I digress. Since this is a pre-recorded episode and we also need to marinate our turkey wings, let's go ahead and get that done now. I'm going to be pausing after each step. That way I actually have time in between them. This is unlike a lot of the live episodes we've been doing. We don't necessarily have to worry about me chattering in between to talk with everybody who happens to pop on. I can actually do things like marinate something for at least an hour or two before I start cooking it. So let's go ahead and do that, and I'll go ahead and make our dipping sauce while we're at it. So, first, you're going to need your turkey wings, and I'm seriously hoping that I have 4 of them in here. I think I might only have 2, in which case I'm going to have to have my recipe. But not to worry, when I post the recipe card for you folks on my Patreon, as well as my Ko-Fi, you will have a recipe for 4 turkey wings, and we'll also see how much is normally within a package of Jenny O's turkey wing portions. So let's go ahead and get to that. So what you're going to need is a baking dish with a lid that is large enough, either or a Tupperware with a lid that's large enough to accommodate your turkey wings. I don't think that's going to be large enough. So let's see what I got here. Since I'm not the only one using my kitchen, I kind of have things sort of scattered throughout. So let's find where my larger baking dish is. Or at least one of my larger Tupperwares. Where are you? Well, I guess that. Will you fit? You might fit. You will not fit. All right. The search continues. As much as I hate using a shallow baking dish, I might just have to do so once I have all my various Tupperware lids flying all over the place. Where are you? I know, this is so charming to watch. Yeah, let's use you. Let's see, this one or this one, whichever one happens to have a lid. And I have quite a few lids. Let's see here. This one. Okay. That solves that problem. What do I have in the fridge that's currently using that? I currently have absolutely nothing in that particular dish, which means, oh, no, I have a chicken falling out in it. Okay, the chicken can stay. Cool, so I have a baking dish. So, just gonna switch to our prep cam here and make sure I'm still recording. And also pull out my camera some so you can see a little bit better what I'm doing. So this is about a, let's say a 3-quart baking dish. We're just gonna be using this for our marinade process. So just gonna go ahead and remove the turkey wings from its package. I'll just do this. And hope against hope that I have 2 to 4 wings. Huh. Okay. Looks like these were already cut for me. I'm okay with that. They fit into the... Perfect. I've got 4 wing portions. Unfortunately, I don't have the tips, which makes for a really cool look, but that's okay. I basically have these ginormous turkey wings that look like they could belong to a hippogriff. Cool. So we will actually do a full recipe of this. So, as I said earlier with the recipe, you need to marinate these in buttermilk, but I'm doing a different twist on it. Buttermilk you can buy at the store, or you can also make your own buttermilk by mixing whole milk with some kind of acidic ingredient, about a tablespoon worth. Usually people do lemon juice, but since these wings are said to go well with beer, and we're also talking about a tavern, a medieval tavern that probably doesn't have access to fancy non-seasonal ingredients like lemons all that much, we're going to go a little different with that. We, instead, are going to use malt vinegar. Malt vinegar, probably, you know, old beer that's gone flat, beer that's stale and gone vinegary. So we're going to do malt vinegar, and not to mention, malt vinegar goes delightfully with fish and chips, which is also a very likely ingredient for you to have, a very likely dish for you to have in a medieval fantasy style tavern. Come on. That is if I could open my milk. All right, so you're gonna need about a cup of milk, cup of full milk here. and a tablespoon of malt vinegar. Which usually there's a restrictor cap on this, so it's okay if a little bit gets on your wings. That's fine. Cool. So I'm just gonna give that a bit of a stir. And then I'm just gonna pour that over my wings. And then I'm gonna marinate it. I'll let it marinate in the fridge for a while. And by a while, I'm talking about, we're gonna do about 2 hours. I mean, I'm doing 2 hours and then I'm just gonna flip them in that hour between. But you're more than welcome to soak these overnight or even longer. So, I'm just gonna stick that top on there. And then it's gonna go back into the fridge. And I'm gonna set a timer for about an hour so I can go in with a pair of tongs and flip them after that hour is complete. I just need to make room for my turkey with the remainder of a charcuterie board that we put together over the weekend. My roommate had to go on a course of antibiotics. She couldn't eat soft cheeses. So we celebrated her being better by going absolutely crazy with gourmet cheeses and cured meats, and basically ate everything in charcuterie form. I want to say over the past 48 to 72 hours, somewhere around there. Okay, so now that we've got our marinade together, it is time to put together our dipping sauce. That way I can make it up and then have it. Okay, so this is where, my sound cut out on my microphone. Battery totally ran out on my microphone. I know, it tends to happen. Since we were pre-recording this, I know I can actually, re-record over it. But as you can see, I am making the dipping sauce to go along with our turkey. The turkey you're going to want to have to marinate over about 2 hours, with an hour in between flipping of the turkey wings. But this dipping sauce. So we are using about 8 ounces of cream cheese in our sauce, which I just unwrapped. I know that the recipe, the dish listed in the book mentioned mascarpone cheese, but at the current moment, groceries are a little, scarce. And now you see that I'm adding about 3/4 of a cup of sour cream to this whole mixture with the cream cheese. That container is about, and here we are with the fresh herbs from my garden. I've got fresh dill as well as fresh chives. I hope this narration does not happen to mess with, my lips not matching up with anything I'm saying. But here we keep going. So here you are with that 8 ounces of cream cheese. You are just going to empty that whole thing into the mixing bowl, which I'm about to do. Right there. Feel free to use a spatula instead. Just, save yourself a knife. You're gonna have to mix with the spatula anyway. I mean, I was just grabbing the first tool that happened to pop up. So, there we go. 8 ounces of cream cheese or mascarpone cheese if you happen to find it at your grocery store and want to spend a little bit of extra cash for that sweet, rich flavor that you get with mascarpone. And next up, I am getting an 1/8 of a cup measuring cup to measure out my sour cream because it's a little easier to pull out of a container with it, and I don't necessarily have to dirty up a spoon to get it out. I'm going to have to measure it anyway. Might as well just use a measuring cup that's shaped like a spoon. So you're going to want 3/4 of a cup of sour cream, or in this particular case, 6/8 of a cup. So there you go. Just get in there and tap it in. And there's 2. 3. 4. 5. And 6. And you still have quite a bit of sour cream left over, so feel free to use it in some scrambled eggs or something for a later time. Now I'm craving scrambled eggs. So, there you go. You have all your sour cream in your bowl. So go ahead and put your measuring cup and knife into the sink because you don't need it anymore. Keep the spatula, though, if you happen to use a spatula instead. Right. So, as you see, I'm getting that spatula, which I should have grabbed to begin with, and mixing that sour cream together. Now, I want to mention, and make sure to put this down for your notes, the cream cheese needs to be softened. So I would say leave it out on your counter for about a half an hour to an hour to let it get, room temperature and to soften up so it's easy. It folds and mixes easily enough in your bowl without having like any lumps or anything like that. See how smooth it is? That's about as smooth as you want once, my camera gets back into focus. There you go. See what I mean? Nice, creamy, and smooth. So, now that I have mixed that together and scraped off the excess, it's time to put in those fresh herbs that I showed you earlier. So, when I was recording this, I wasn't really sure how much exactly the fresh herbs were on that handful. I was mostly just eyeballing it because that's the amount you normally get at a grocery store, that kind of package you get, the little plastic clamshell. So, since this was from my garden, I was kind of having to eyeball how much I was trimming. That is the fresh dill. And I have a ton of it, let me tell you. It's been growing like a weed in my garden, not that I'm complaining. So, yeah, I'm just going to chop those up. And I'm about to go over how to cut in a little bit. So, as you see, I've got that rocking motion and pushing the herbs towards my knife as I'm chopping while keeping my fingers out of the way. And then going over to chop it up a little bit more finely. So, once again, here's that little tutorial: forefinger against the blade, thumb on the other side. You don't have to pinch it hard and make your fingers comfortable around the handle, and just make sure it doesn't slip in your fingers. I was kind of talking at this point about how I'm considering doing kind of a series on how to do basic knife work for a lot of various things like herbs, vegetables, fruit. Now, especially since I'm doing a lot of this pre-recording ahead of time and can sort of, put it all together and release shorter videos. I'm not streaming giant long swathes of things. So, I ended up with about a 1/4 cup of chopped fresh dill. So take your notes, that's what you're going to add to next. Chopped fresh dill, 1/4 cup. Okay, so next up I've got my fresh chives, which, sliced up again, you're going to get about a 1/4 cup of that. So go ahead and chop those up. Chop it up finely, just how I showed you earlier, that rocking motion while pushing the herbs towards your knife. Just keep doing that. Look how lovely that is. I am super excited about having fresh herbs from my garden. And if you're wondering if you know, you're growing chives. When it's a good time to harvest? Well, whenever they get too long, you kind of give your chives a haircut. So that length I showed you ended up being, like as I'm about to show you right now, a quarter of a cup of fresh chopped chives. Isn't that lovely? And let me tell you, that mix of fresh dill and chives together, just picking them in my garden smelled amazing. So, I did get to taste this when I mixed it in. It tastes fantastic. I'm really looking forward to seeing how it pairs up with the buffalo turkey wings that I just happened to, well, I'm mixing together. I mean, I will admit, when I had to go back and re-record this, I still haven't finished the dish yet, but as you see here, you just stir in those herbs until well incorporated and smooth. Look at that. Look how pretty it is. Let me tell you, it tastes as good as it looks. Probably tastes better because, admittedly, you know, some of the most delicious things in the world look like a bowl of slop. So, look at that go. Isn't it pretty? And it's starting to actually look, you know, like a legitimate herb dipping sauce. So, that's me tasting it right there. It tastes perfect. Don't need to add any kosher salt or anything like that to it. And gonna continue to smooth it up, clean it up a little bit, scrape off the sides, get that back into the bowl. And go ahead and throw that spatula into the sink because you don't need it anymore unless, you know, you really want to keep it around for putting it in serving dishes. But, yeah. Don't worry about that for now because at that point you're going to want a clean spatula or spoon anyway. So, as you see, I am now covering this with some cling wrap and sticking that whole mess into the fridge to keep it chilled and safe to eat, and you can always take it out, I want to say about 15 minutes before you serve your wings to let it soften up a little bit, but you still want it nice and chilled so, you know, it doesn't give you food poisoning. So, as you see, I'm just kind of rambling at this point. I'm telling you kind of an overview, which I'm going to, you know, not show you. So you're gonna have those turkey wings marinating for about 2 hours total. The first hour, you take it out of the fridge, give the wings a flip to get the other side into the marinade, and then stick it back in the fridge for another hour. So the next time you will see me, before I pause this, and I'm just kind of pantomiming while I narrate this, we will be roasting our turkey wings in the oven to give them a nice crispy skin using our bake function as well as a broiler. So, about to pause it now. See you in a second. We're back. So, yes, we've now had the turkey wings marinating in the fridge for about 2 hours. I flipped it once just to make sure that both sides got enough marinade. Now, ideally, you want to go overnight with this and maybe kind of flip halfway through, but since we don't really have much time, we're only doing 2 hours. So, next up, what I need to do is, of course, I just preheated my oven to about 375 degrees. And here is actually a key part of this recipe. Do forgive me showing off my utensils. Babe, can you open the oven for me, please? So, as you see, there is about 3 racks. The rack you're going to want to use is the second one up from the bottom of the heat source. The reason why we're doing this, go ahead and close for me, please. is that we are going to be not only roasting this, we're going to be using the broiler on our turkey wings to make sure we get that nice crispy skin, but because you don't necessarily want it to be burned, especially if we're doing the whole broiler crisping method, we are putting it as far away from the heat source on the broiler to make sure the skin doesn't get too burnt, but we're still putting it above the heat source enough so the bottom doesn't get burnt during the initial baking. So that is the setup we have going on right now. Next up, I just need to make the spice blend and coat those wings and get them in the oven. So let's go ahead and do that. So this spice blend I'm about to make is called Poudre Fort, which is, like I said earlier, French for strong powder. It is a medieval recipe from the European Middle Ages, consisting of a couple of spices here. We've got some black pepper. Here, let me go ahead and switch the prep cam. Some black pepper. We got some ground clove here. Cinnamon. Sorry, the black pepper just got into my lungs. Ground ginger and ground nutmeg. So, what we're gonna do for this particular blend is we're going to be doing equal parts of all of them. So it's going to be 2 teaspoons of black pepper, 2 teaspoons of nutmeg, that to the side. Ginger. Clove. And finally, cinnamon. All right, so just gonna stir that up all nice and blended. Let's see, that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's about 12 teaspoons total in that mixture. We're gonna be using half of it to season our wings and the other half in our buffalo sauce. So, got our spice mix here. Next up, I just need to get the spices out of my nose. All right, next up, I need to grab my olive oil here, as well as prep a few things. So, next up, you're gonna need a baking sheet here, like I'm about to show you, as well as a wire rack that goes with it that fits it. It's also oven safe. A lot of times you can find these at various baking stores or just, on Amazon. Ow! That is if I don't cut myself on the aluminum foil package. So do we still have Band-Aids in here, love? Babe? Do we still have Band-Aids? Yeah. All right. It's not the knife that kicks me, it's the aluminum foil package. So, we'll wash that off because we don't want it to get into our wings. That would be gross. Standard. Here we are. Yeah. Whew. So yeah, lesson learned, open your package of aluminum foil with a knife. Preferably one that's not going to stab you. Yeah, why can't I get it open? Okay. There we go. All right. So, as I was saying, before I cut myself on an aluminum foil package, embarrassing as that is. God, who puts tape on these things? Oh my gosh. Okay. Here we go. All right. I'm going to tear off that little edge there because it has some adhesive. And then I'm going to line my pan with aluminum foil. Okay. It's lined, and now just gotta put that rack set right into there. I'm gonna set this aside. The next step of our process, which is prepping the wings. So, to do that, just gotta first get them out of the fridge. Okay, here we are. So now that these have been marinated, I'm just going to dump out all of that marinade. So. Where are those tongs I had? Ah, here we are. Cool. Dump it, you don't need it. Okay, so now that we got that, here's, we take those tongs again, and we're just gonna drizzle some olive oil on our wings here. Toss it to coat. And next up, I am going to season these liberally with kosher salt. On this side, scatter 3 teaspoons of your spice mix onto the wings. Turn it over. And I'm going to move this actually to our grate here. So, that way I don't knock too much of that spice mixture over. we are. Just gonna switch places, this pan and that pan. Get this into the sink because you don't need it anymore. Rinse that off. Clean as I go, I always say. All right, here we are. Space out your wings evenly. Once again, liberally season with that kosher salt again. And once again, like I said, 3 teaspoons of that spice mixture. There's 2. And that's 3. Okay. So, now we just need to throw those in the oven for about half an hour. And make sure to put that pair of tongs in the sink. You don't need it anymore. You're going to need a clean pair of tongs for this next step, especially because we're going to be flipping these back and forth. However, I'm going to be putting this in the oven. It's currently 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and we will be baking it for about 30 minutes before our next step. So let me go ahead and put that in there. And like I said again, second rack on the second rung above the heat source, so technically in the middle of the oven. All right, so our wings are currently in the oven. Put a timer on for about half an hour. And now we're going to pause here for our next step. So, catch you in a bit. I will see you in half an hour. And we're back. We have less than a minute left on our wings currently on the first bake cycle. I will actually move over my camera so you can see what I am doing here in just a second, because the next step of the process is broiling these wings so you get that nice crispy skin. In the meantime, we'll be making our buffalo sauce with Frank's Red Hot butter, honey, and the remaining spice blend. I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. As you heard, we have our timer just went off, so I'm going to switch this, turn the timer off, and switch it then. Let me just kind of show you what I'm doing here. Stove. Okay. And then I'm just going to put it onto a high broil for about 5 minutes. And this is going to be a total 20 minutes of broiling, but you want to do it in 5-minute increments. So I've just set the time for 5 minutes, and let me go ahead and move to our sauce. So come with me. All right, so for our sauce, we're going to need about 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Here, let's go ahead and slice that up for us. So we've got our saucepan right here. So I'm going to need about 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter right there. There's 1, 2. 3 and 4. And feel free to add another 1 or 2 tablespoons of butter if you prefer a milder sauce. This sauce should be pretty mild, but you know, your flavors change and kind of, you know, stuff changes, like flavor ingredients do tend to vary in their flavor. So I'm just going to move this to our stove cam, and I'm just going to get our butter on a medium flame to melt. So in the meantime, I need to measure out the amount of Frank's Red Hot we're going to be using. I'm going to go ahead and use this particular measuring cup because I used it for the dill and chives. I figure that, you know, we can use similar flavors. It's quite okay. It's not like I'm putting in raw turkey into it. So I'm just going to pour about a half a cup. And a thing you need to notice about some of your measuring cups, they have the measurements kind of listed on the inside. So if you can't find a particular size measuring cup, a smaller one, but you have a 1 cup, most of them tend to have measurements on the inside. So yeah, there's our hot sauce. In the meantime, let's switch to our stove cam to see how our butter is melting, and it is melting beautifully. But just gonna continue to do its thing here. I'm realizing I'm gonna have to move this for the next step of the process. But as you can see here, we got our butter melting beautifully. I want to wait till it's completely melted because then I want to bloom my spices, which means kind of awaken the flavor of those spices in fat, which in this case is butter. You see a lot of this in Indian cooking when you have coconut cream on the skillet to bloom your spices with ahead of time. We're just going to do it with butter. Not to mention it kind of browns it a little bit, which gives it a nice flavor. So, our butter is melted. So I'm just going to toss in the remainder of our spice blend here and give that a whisk. And kind of whisk it for about, I want to say 30 seconds. Just kind of get this slurry, allow those flavors to kind of become fragrant. Isn't that lovely? And next, I'm just going to pour in my hot sauce. Whisk that in until it is uniform. That smells excellent. Though I think I'm going to add an extra tablespoon of butter, that last tablespoon of butter in there, because I think my family wants it a little bit milder. So I'm just kind of toss that in there. I'm going to throw a lid on top of that to keep it warm and to let it melt. Once I find where my lid went. Here we are. So, yeah. There we go. The heat's off. I'm just kind of letting it melt and do its thing. And that timing is good because now I need to remove my wings from the oven. Ooh, that's smoky. Ooh. Okay. Isn't that lovely? Just show what I'm doing here. Okay, so you know how I mentioned that clean pair of tongs? You're gonna need it now, which I should have gotten out of this before I started this. Okay, so just gonna flip those over. And as you see, it's been kind of basting in its own fat. Isn't that lovely? Okay, and now I just need to put it back in the oven. Same rack as before for another 5 minutes. Whew. I'm gonna turn this vent on just because it is getting warm in my kitchen. Whew. All right. So, See, that butter has already melted on me, so I'm just gonna whisk that in. Just gonna give that a quick taste to see how it is. See if I need to adjust the flavor any. That was really good. Very vinegary though. So, I'm gonna add just another tablespoon of butter, provided that I can find a stick. The package has already been opened. Oh gosh, okay. Whew. And I admit that I'm doing this more of a matter of preference than need at the moment. And that's perfectly okay. This is your dish. You do you. You make the flavor that you want. In this case, I want more butter. I am just going to set that on low to melt it. When did this box get wet? I don't understand it. My fridge is weird. Okay. That is looking smooth and beautiful. I would say velvety even. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Yes, that is perfect. In texture at least. Just going to try this again. Oh, no. That is perfect. So yeah, just gonna leave that to stay warm. Still has very much a kick to it, but I am completely okay with that because we've got that nice and creamy dipping sauce to kind of calm down the spice a bit while you're eating. Not to mention there's so much butter in that sauce to begin with. I'm very excited. Whew, goodness. Actually, I'm going to move that so I have more space to a trivet over here. Put away my pepper. All right. After this, we have another 10 minutes left on our wings left to go. Just gonna check on it real quick. Oh, that's pretty. Oh boy. Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I would pause, but we're so close to the end here. So that means I need to chop up my celery sticks. But let's do that after I flip these wings. So, whew. Whew. Once again, looking crispy and awesome. Flip it again. And like I said, it's basting in its own fat as it renders off. Isn't that beautiful? Oh boy. Okay. Good, I didn't knock my microphone out by accident. All right, so those are flipped. Make sure they're separate so they don't stick. Come on. Come on, don't be difficult. There we go. So, back into the oven we go. Oh. For another 5 minutes. At this point, I'm going to take my sauce, the dipping sauce that I made earlier, out of the fridge to let it warm up a little bit before serving. So you're not trying to drag this essentially through cream cheese. So I got the sauce out. Let's see, where did I put those serving plates that I brought down? It's right there. Okay. So that is looking quite lovely there. Oh boy. Sauce, I've got the bowl. I need plates. So, let me just grab some plates. I think this will be big enough. As well as some dishes to dip these wings in. So let's go with, I think these are nice. They're nice and deep. Ow! And I kick a footstool that's on the ground. Don't mind me. Okay, so let's go ahead and divide that into quarters with a spatula. Okay. And finally, my serving portion for my photo. T-minus 8 minutes. Whew. I'll make this look a lot cleaner, I promise. Just gonna get that last little bit. Cool. Put the whole thing in the sink. Like I said, clean as you go. I mean, you'll notice that my kitchen looks a lot cleaner right now. It's because while I was waiting for that turkey to bake, and I just realized I forgot to put honey into my sauce. Not to worry. right. So, tablespoon of honey, not drizzled on top of your lid, but actually in your sauce. Ooh, you can see right there. Stir that around a bit to get off the excess. And then I'll whisk it more thoroughly after I flip those wings again. Okay. Just grab my pot holder and... Oh, nice. Prep these wings for the final flip here. Well, this is the final flip, so you get it. All right. Bam. 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 Haha. And back into the oven for its final 5 minutes of broiling. Cool. So, back to where we were. That sauce, that glorious sauce that I forgot to put honey in earlier. A mistake I shall not make again. My very crystallized honey. Not to worry, we'll make this work. Just keep whisking. Whisk, 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 whisk away to melt that honey. And mix it in. Okay. No, I was wrong. That wasn't perfect. This is. That is effing fantastic. So, a note. If it's still too spicy for your liking, add another tablespoon of honey. Because sweetness helps counteract spiciness. So, just make it a little sweeter and it'll balance out. So, our final bit, celery. It said that it's served with celery sticks, so I am chopping up some celery sticks. Am I going to need this much celery? Probably not. But we'll make it work. So, first I'm just going to cut off the base here because I want to keep this and replant it. So I just dampened up a paper towel, put that bud in there, and set it in the windowsill. So I'm just gonna carve up some celery sticks. So about, that looks like about, it's a pretty good length. There we go. And don't need that. That can go into some stock. So can that actually. Like anything I don't serve, I'm going to chop up and freeze for other usages. So let me just go ahead and rinse these off in the sink, colander. Pardon me. items. Clean the stuff as I find it. Still gonna need these, as well as this. I can go ahead and wash this. Well, I've got 2 minutes. I've got less than a minute. Okay. Put the honey away. Alright. Good, my microphone's still going. I will admit that kind of made me nervous a bit earlier. Oh. Let's see. I'll slice that up later. Weigh this measuring spoon since I don't need it anymore. And I'm going to see if I can clean up some of this. Make it look a little nicer. All right. That means my wings are ready. So, let's put my pot holders. Turn off the oven. Remove the wings from the oven. Whew. Let's switch to my stove cam so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so our wings are looking beautifully crispy and glossy from that kind of basting rendered fat. Oh, gosh, that's gorgeous. Those look epically juicy. And there we go. Switch it back to our prep cam here. Got these gorgeous wings. Look at how pretty they are. So, what wings, buffalo wings, or in this case, hippogriff wings, what would they be if they weren't slathered in a spicy, buttery sauce? Look at that, that's just gorgeous. I'm gonna need a spatula to get the rest of that out. Where are you? Haha, here we are. Okay. And yeah, I know my mess isn't completely clean, but it's at least controllable now. Like, I don't have a completely full sink to toss things in. So, just gonna make sure all of that is slathered and beautiful. Look at that. Heck yeah. I might actually get larger plates for us eating this, but for the serving plate, I'm not gonna have to worry about that so much. Okay. Cool. Look at that. Beautiful, right? Let's get those larger plates for my roomies. Okay. Let's see here. I'm just gonna go ahead and put these all on one for now. Oh my God. Isn't that gorgeous? Heck yeah. Cool. Ah. I'm just going to make sure the others are coated liberally in sauce. So just gonna put those other two, slather away. Yeah. Yep. Freaking gorgeous. Okay. Oh, all right. Cool. Whew. Let's stick that over here for now. Pull this out so you can see what I'm doing. All right. Okay, now I just need to divide all of that, as well as an abundant amount of celery. Let's see, I think I like the look of, this one best. There we are. Whew. I'm just going to take a pastry brush for this step, just so it's spread a little more evenly. Okay. Cool. Where'd all those celery sticks go? Ha! Here we are. Whew. Isn't that pretty? Nice. Okay, so that combined with our dipping sauce, let me just move that. 4. Okay. Is my microphone still working? All right. So, at last, spicy hippogriff wing with a creamy dill and chive sauce. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Munchies and Minis. Today's recipe was inspired by the tabletop role-playing game Tiny Taverns, where you get to, you and your party get to play the staff and owners of a medieval fantasy-style tavern. Today's recipe was for spicy hippogriff wing, and I think it turned out very well. Next week, I will be pre-filming once again until we get a new router for, once again, another Tiny Taverns recipe. It's going to be another one called, I think it's cave slime mold, which should be kind of a fruit jello parfait that we're putting together. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you so much for your patience in dealing with this in the pandemic, and everyone stay safe, stay sane, and, well, stay you. Catch you later. Next time on The Gluttonous Geek Presents Munchies and Minis.